Good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished guests, and all our online and offline participants. Welcome to the 2023 ASEAN-Korea Forum. My name is Ji-Yoon Lee from ASEAN-Korea Center, and it is my great pleasure to be your MC today for the 2023 ASEAN-Korea Forum. Today's event, held under the theme of Elevating ASEAN-Korea Strategic Partnership in a Changing Global Landscape, is co-organized by ASEAN-Korea Center and the Seogang University Institute for East Asian Studies. We would like to express our sincere appreciation to our distinguished guests, panelists, discussants, and all our participants from ASEAN and Korea who are joining us this afternoon. Now, let us begin by inviting His Excellency Kim Hae-yong, the Secretary General of the ASEAN-Korea Center, to share his opening remarks. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
안녕하십니까. Good afternoon, distinguished guests and speakers from ASEAN and Korea, ladies and gentlemen, in particular President Shim Jong-hyuk of Seogang University, and His Excellency Dr. Hassan Wirayat Yuda, former Foreign Minister of Indonesia and Dean of School of Law and International Studies at the Prastia Mulia University, and His Excellency Lim Sung-nam, former First Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Korea and former Korean Ambassador to ASEAN. And also I see many of my colleagues, ASEAN ambassadors in Seoul. Here you are. And I must recognize former ambassadors, Ambassador Lee Sun-jin, former ambassador to Indonesia. I'd like to extend my deepest welcome and appreciation for your participation in 2023 ASEAN-Korea Forum. It is my great honor to have renowned scholars and officials from ASEAN and Korea here in Seoul. I also convey my sincere gratitude to our co-organizer, Seogang University and its Institute for East Asian Studies for their generous support. My appreciation also goes to all the panelists who will share their valuable insights for a promising future in ASEAN-Korea relations. Being said, reflecting on the past few decades, the discourse surrounding Asia has transformed and evolved over time. Our predecessors used to refer to the region that we belong to as Asia-Pacific and try to ensure stability and prosperity within the region through the establishment of APEC in 1989. Meanwhile, as we entered 21st century, the region again sought for new vision around East Asia, resulting in the creation of East Asia Summit in 2005. And the effort to collaborate on regional cooperation has evolved into the world's largest existing free trade agreement, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, known as RCEP, which includes 15 countries in the region. Today, the growing uncertainties and complexities in the global affairs have convened us together in the broader Indo-Pacific region. As the name suggests, Indo-Pacific represents extensive geographical coverage. Aligning with this new political discourse around Indo-Pacific, major powers came out with their own regional strategies, such as Indo-Pacific Economic Framework of the United States, and also elevated their relations to the next level. Notable examples are China and Japan's comprehensive strategic partnership with ASEAN. Against this backdrop, the Korean government unveiled its strategy for a free, peaceful, and prosperous Indo-Pacific region, recognizing the significance of ASEAN within this vast region. The Korean government announced the Korea-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative, while committing to double its contribution to ASEAN-Korea Cooperation Fund by 2027 during the 23rd ASEAN-Korea ROK Summit last year. In fact, I had a chance to go on an official trip to Indonesia and Singapore in May last year. Before KASI was announced, some of the stakeholders that I met expressed their concerns over discontinuation of New Southern Policy, Korea's previous ASEAN initiative. Despite concerns, KASI has been receiving positive feedback from ASEAN as the initiative seeks to upgrade the relations rather than deviate from existing regional partnerships. Looking forward, KASI identified 8 core lines of effort which support ASEAN centrality and ASEAN outlook on Indo-Pacific. Through the implementation of KASI, ASEAN and Korea are expected to expand scope of depth of cooperation in all dimensions, not to mention trade and investment, culture and tourism, and people-to-people exchanges. Ladies and gentlemen, the year 2024 marks an important milestone, including the 35th anniversary of dialogue relations. Both sides are eager to establish a comprehensive strategic partnership on this remarkable occasion. Meanwhile, the ASEAN-Korea Center is also poised to celebrate the 15th anniversary next year. Being said, we are fully committed to bridging and connecting ASEAN and Korea to solidify a substantive and strategic partnership through a comprehensive portfolio of programs. In this light, today, the ASEAN-Korea Center prepared 3 sessions to discuss elevating ASEAN-Korea strategic partnership in a changing global landscape from diverse perspectives. The first session, we will review and discuss a strategic partnership between ASEAN and Korea from a policy perspective. We are privileged to have speakers with extensive experience and wisdom contributing to this subject. During the second session, emerging challenges and issues faced by the partnership will be addressed by prominent scholars from ASEAN and Korea. Lastly, we'll invite the winners of 2023 ASEAN-Korea Academic Essay Contest to share their fresh perspectives on behalf of young people in ASEAN and Korea who are future shapers of ASEAN-Korean relations. Distinguished guests, today I look forward to insightful and fruitful discussions. Once again, thank you very much for your participation and interest today. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your remarks. Next, I would like to invite President Shim Jong-hyuk, the President of Seogang University, for his congratulatory remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon. I am Father Luke Shim Jong-hyuk, the President of Seogang University, and it is an honor for me to be here with you to welcome all of you today. His Excellency Dr. Hassan Wirayuda, the Dean of School of Law and International Studies at Prasetya Mulia University, and former Foreign Minister of Indonesia. His Excellency Dr. Wen Vu-tung, the Ambassador of Vietnam to Korea. His Excellency Mr. Im Song-nam, former First Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Korea. His Excellency Mr. Kim Hae-yong, Secretary General of ASEAN-Korea Center. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Seogang community, I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you to coming to Seogang University. It is also my great pleasure to have this chance to cooperate with ASEAN-Korea Center to host this second ASEAN-Korea Forum this year. As the President and a long-time member of the Seogang community, I am also happy to see the Institute for East Asian Studies, or CIAS, become Korea's hub of Southeast Asian studies and raise the profile of Southeast Asian studies in Korea worldwide. Today's forum, I believe, also represents the CIAS, the strong commitment to enhancing partnership with ASEAN member countries, as well as to enrich our understanding about the region. I guess some of you are not very familiar with Sogang University and CIAS, so let me briefly introduce them to you. It has been more than 40 years since the CIAS was established as the Sogang's platform for area studies in East Asia. Particularly from the early 2000s, the Institute started to expand its scope to the studies of Southeast Asia, or the ASEAN region. In particular, in 2008, CIAS received a 10 billion won 10-year grant from the Korean Research Foundation with an aim to build capacity and raise the profile of Southeast Asian studies in Korea. I am aware that this mega project has made an important contribution to enhancing Southeast Asian studies, which used to be overlooked for a long time in Korea. History shows that commitment to interdisciplinary research and cooperation has always been with us Sogang, starting long before the Korean academia in general began to take an interdisciplinary turn in 2000. I am informed that today we are going to take another important step in this long journey of mutual understanding between Korea and the ASEAN region by discussing the international cooperation and partnership. As a citizen of Korea, I am also excited to learn from all of you about the history of the two regions' partnership and prospect of it. Honest discussion and critical reflection would be the foundation for the improvement of the ASEAN-Korea relations in the fast-changing international regional landscape. I expect today's forum to be a part of it, challenging outdated ideas, embracing diverse perspectives, and making a meaningful intellectual contribution. Of course, while being thoughtful and reflective, I believe we can still stay happy and positive about the future diplomatic partnership between the two regions. It's a little bit early, but I want to conclude my remarks with big congratulations to all of us for the 35th anniversary Korea-ASEAN diplomatic relations next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Shim, for your remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to session 1 and hear the deep thoughts of prominent experts from both ASEAN and Korea, we're also very fortunate today to be joined by His Excellency Dr. Hassan Wirayuda, former Foreign Minister of Indonesia and current Dean of the School of Law and International Studies at Prasetya Mulia University, as today's keynote speaker. His Excellency Dr. Hassan Wirayuda served as the former Foreign Minister of Indonesia from 2001 to 2009. He has held the position of Dean at the School of Law and International Studies at Prasetya Mulia University since December 2022. And concurrently, he is also the chair of the Study Center on Indonesian Nationhood at the university from 2021. His Excellency's notable contribution to peace includes his important role as a facilitator in the peace talks between the government of the Philippines and the Moro National Liberation Front from 1993 to 1996, which led to the signing of the Manila Final Peace Agreement on September 2nd, 1996. Ladies and gentlemen, let us please welcome His Excellency with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon to all of you. His Excellency Kim Hai-yong, Secretary General of the ASEAN-Korea Center, His Excellency Lim Sung-nam, former First Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea and former Ambassador of Korea to ASEAN. Honorable Professor Father Luke Sim Jong Hyok, President of Sogang University, co-host of this conference, Excellencies, Ambassadors of ASEAN member countries to the Republic of Korea, and in this regard, I would like to extend special recognitions to the departing Indonesian Ambassador, His Excellency Gandhi Sulistianto, for his significant contributions in promoting Indonesia-ASEAN relations. Thank you for your dedications and efforts in promoting Indonesia and ASEAN-Korea relations. Excellencies, distinguished panelists, speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, allow me at the outset to commend the ASEAN-Korea Center and Sogang University for their exceptional efforts in organizing and hosting the 2023 ASEAN-Korea Forum. The chosen theme, elevating ASEAN-Korea strategic partnerships in a challenging global landscape, reflects the importance of strengthening our ties amidst the current global challenges. I would also like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Secretary General of ASEAN-Korea Center, His Excellency Ambassador Kim Hai-yong, for the gracious invitation to participate in this conference and deliver a keynote speech. The timing of this event could not be more perfect. It takes place at a critical juncture when both ASEAN and Korea are recovering from the profound disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. This serves as an opportune moment to assess the resilience of ASEAN-Korea relations and set a course for the future. Moreover, the next year marks the 35th anniversary of ASEAN-Korea relations and the plan to launch the comprehensive strategic partnerships, making this forum even more meaningful. The ASEAN-Korea relationship is characterized by inherent asymmetry, yet complementarity. ASEAN, with its vast geographical expanse and abundant natural resources, coupled with its large and growing populations of nearly 700 million and a thriving middle class, possesses significant inherent assets. Demography and natural resources play a crucial role in determining power dynamics. Collectively, ASEAN has maintained its positions as a prominent economic powerhouse. The combined gross domestic product, or GDP, of ASEAN countries has surpassed $3.7 trillion, which is twice of the GDP of Korea, positioning it as the world's fifth largest economy. Furthermore, ASEAN has been experiencing robust economic growth, with several member countries demonstrating remarkable resilience and progress. As a result, the region is poised to ascend to the fourth positions by year 2030, making it an attractive and substantial market for Korean products. Additionally, Korea stands to benefit from ASEAN's abundant natural resources and contributing to efforts in climate change mitigations. Foreign direct investment, or FDI, flowing into the ASEAN region has been substantial, amounting to $224 billion in 2022. This significant inflow reflects the attractiveness of the regions for international businesses and investors. A key contributing factor to the appeal is the long-standing political stability and security enjoyed by Southeast Asia in the past 55 years. This achievement has enabled the sub-regions to prioritize its economic development, leading to its remarkable dynamisms. Despite Korea's limited geographical space, the nation has successfully developed its human resources, advanced technology, and fostered a culture of innovations, positioning itself as a vital player in the global economy. Recognizing that innovation is power, Korea can leverage the strengths to forge a productive collaborations with ASEAN, particularly in sectors related to technology and innovations. The current Korean government's ASEAN strategy is closely integrated with the strategy for a free, peaceful, and prosperous Indo-Pacific regions. This commitment is exemplified through the newly launched Korea-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative, or KASI, which emphasizes a comprehensive approach to the Republic of Korea-ASEAN ties. Furthermore, Korea aims to pivot towards security-driven initiative and joint responses to regional challenges alongside ASEAN. This underscores the strategic importance of Korea's engagement in the regions as it seeks to deepen strategic and security alignment with ASEAN. However, it is imperative that this new policy translate into tangible actions that extend beyond mere political statements. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on the economic sector, the interaction between ASEAN and Korea at the summit level has been remarkably active. During the ASEAN-Korea Summit in Phnom Penh in 2022, leaders announced Korean-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative, or KASI, which signifies Korea's growing efforts to strengthen its Indo-Pacific strategy and expand its international engagement beyond its four major partners, namely China, United States, Japan, and Russia. It appears that Korea faces fewer challenges in its relationship with the US compared to the other partners. The primary motivation behind the KASI is to deepen strategic and security alignment with ASEAN. This renewed policy was seen as a correction of the previous policy of President Moon Jae-in, which faced criticisms for its lack of security elements and limited focus on functional economic and development cooperations. Under KASI, President Yoon Suk-yeol aims to pivot towards security-driven initiative, including defense exchanges and joint responses to regional challenges such as cyber and maritime security. Furthermore, this year's leaders agreed to enhance collaborations in emerging economic sectors such as financial technology or fintech, the digital economy, and the startup economic ecosystem. Significant high-level political commitments have been made to expand and deepen all aspects of the ASEAN-Korea relationships, exemplifying in the essence of strategic partnerships. However, it remains to be seen whether the commitments are actually delivered. It is perhaps worth noting a recent report by the Yusuf Ishak Institute of ASEAN in Singapore on the state of Southeast Asia 2023, which highlights the relatively low ranking of South Korea by ASEAN opinion leaders in terms of economic, strategic, and soft power influences compared to other major powers. only 1% of ASEAN elites consider South Korea to be an influential economic power. The Republic of Korea is in the 8th positions out of a ranking 9 countries. On the other hand, a survey conducted by the ASEAN-Korean Center on Mutual Perceptions reveals that interest in ASEAN among Korean youth is relatively low, with only 52.8%. However, there is exceptionally high excitement among ASEAN youth South Korea, with 97.7% indicating positive sentiments. Unfortunately, this enthusiasm has not translated into high flow of tourists from ASEAN to Korea, as seen in comparison to Japan. Perception matters, and it is crucial for both ASEAN and Korean policymakers to address this perception gap. Efforts should be made to actively promote people-to-people contact and enhance mutual understanding. Despite these perceptions, it is encouraging to note that South Korea's presence in Southeast Asia has been expanding in recent times, which is a positive sign. Korea's efforts in deepening economic ties with ASEAN is still low. Korea's economic ties with ASEAN is perceived to focus on Vietnam, where almost 48% of the total Korean export go to ASEAN, and 27% of Korean foreign direct investment also go to ASEAN. However, the notions of diversifying Korean business operation across other ASEAN members can be seen as a positive step. This diversification can help mitigate global uncertainties arising from factors such as US-China competitions and the ongoing Ukraine-Russia conflict, while also aiding the recovery from the aftermath of COVID-19 pandemic. In return, Korea stands to benefit from ASEAN abundant natural resources and collaborative efforts, particularly in areas such as processed nickel and electric vehicle batteries. Exemplifying this collaboration, significant investments involving billions of dollars from LG Energy Solutions, CATK, and POSCO are facilitating the construction of smelter plant for Indonesian nickel and battery for electric vehicles, in line with the 2015 Paris Agreements to combat climate change. These partnerships encompasses new frontiers that were unforeseen at the inception of our partnerships in 1991. On political and security, with the ongoing geopolitical and geoeconomic shift from Europe to East Asia, our region is often referred to as the regions of the 21st century, primarily due to its economic prowess. However, from the political and security perspective, we cannot rule out East Asia or Indo-Pacific as the endangered Asia century. Since the early 1970s, ASEAN countries, particularly those with more authoritarian regimes, have prioritized economic development. These trends originated in Korea, then spread to Southeast Asia. That's why the term Asian tiger. Unfortunately, political development has been neglected in most parts of the regions, a pattern that persists even in forums like East Asia Summit, which was established in 2004 and meant as a primary vehicle toward the establishment of an East Asia community. This imbalanced approach ultimately hinders the realizations of a regional order in East Asia, which initially included 16 countries that attended the first Asia Summit in Kuala Lumpur in mid-December 2015. Before discussing the significant shift toward East Asia in geopolitical and geoeconomic terms, it is important to acknowledge the difficulties in developing any notion of regional order in East Asia. The absence of strong political and security pillar in Northeast Asia is a key factor. Despite productive collaboration in economic, trade, and investment, the historical baggage prevents China, Japan, and South Korea, as well as North Korea, from reaching consensus on political and security matters. On the other hand, in Southeast Asia, ASEAN has actively promoted intra-ASEAN integration since 1967. It has also served as an active bridge builder through mechanisms like the +1, +3, +6, or 8. Despite its size, ASEAN has demonstrated convening power. However, a balanced progress on sub-regional pillars is necessary to discuss and achieve an East Asian regional order. The existing environment of tension and strategic competition between the two superpowers complicates efforts to establish a regional order. Despite ASEAN and China negotiation for a code of conduct in the South China Sea, for example, since 2011, significant progress has not been made. Promoting the shaping and sharing of norms of behavior is an essential component of a regional order. There is a danger of our region becoming an unstable and dangerous area. The current world order in terms of political and security is ineffective, as seen in the experience of the Middle East with proxy wars in Syria and Yemen since 2012. The absence of a regional order in the Middle East has led states becoming failed or failing states. There's something that we should learn from the experience of other regions. Moreover, without effective dialogue and direct communication between China and the United States, of course, we note with appreciation that not only Foreign Minister, or rather Secretary of State Blinken visited Beijing, and Foreign Minister Wang Yi is about to visit Washington, but likewise on the margins of the APEC summit that President Xi Jinping and President Biden would meet. So we hope that the direct communications and dialogue could be promoted as well, because in absence of that, there is a danger that conflicts such as the one in South China Sea and over Taiwan Straits, and I believe also in North China Sea, could develop into an open conflict. Amidst escalating regional tensions and the potential for conflicts, it is crucial for ASEAN and Korea as middle powers to assume significant roles. Working closely together, they can serve as anchors of stability and peace in the regions. By facilitating dialogues and engagement, they can effectively prevent the Asia or Indo-Pacific regions from becoming a perilous century. I thank you for your kind invitation. Kamsahamnida.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your observant views and the inspiring speech. Ladies and gentlemen, today's program consists of the 3 sessions that will cover key issues of ASEAN-Korea relations and the journey towards a strategic partnership in a changing global landscape. The first session will discuss the status and future of ASEAN-Korea strategic partnership from a policy perspective. The second session will discuss navigating the strategic future of the ASEAN-Korea partnership evolving issues and major challenges from scholarly perspectives. And the third session will be accompanied by the awarding ceremony of the 2023 ASEAN-Korea Academic Essay Contest, followed by presentations by the Grant, Excellence, and Merit Prize winners who wrote essays under the theme of Strengthening ASEAN-Korea Strategic Partnership in a Changing Global Landscape from a Youth Perspectives. Lastly, at the end of all the sessions, a post-program survey will be waiting for you with a chance to win a lucky draw. So please stay tuned until the end. Without further ado, we'll now begin session 1. I would like to call on our esteemed speakers and panelists to take their seats on the stage. Please welcome His Excellency Hassan Wirayuda, former Foreign Minister of Indonesia, His Excellency Im Seong-nam, former First Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of RK and former Ambassador of RK to ASEAN, His Excellency Oeng Butdong, Ambassador of Vietnam to the Republic of Korea, and Professor Shin Yun-hwan, Professor Emeritus from Sogang University. Lastly, Ms. Chung Eui-hae, Adjunct Faculty of the National Intelligence Service, will be moderating this session. Ms. Chung, the floor is now yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think all the speakers here really need no introduction. So we'll have very short 30 minutes to unpack and untangle a lot of geopolitical context. Let me just briefly introduce the speakers. Vice Minister Lim will go first, and then I will invite Ambassador Butdong of Vietnam for his remarks, then Professor Shin, and then we will perhaps open with some comments from Excellency Hassan Wirayuda. So we look forward to the insights from the vast experiences of the speakers from here, from the policymakers to the academia. May I invite Ambassador Lim to give his remarks?
Thank you so much, Director General Chung, for a very kind introduction. And I'm very pleased and privileged to join the first session of this timely and important forum. Let me get straight to the points I want to make. If somebody asks me to describe the status of the Korea-ASEAN partnership with 3 words, then my answer would be complementarity, congeniality, and collaboration. I think as indicated by Dr. Wirayuda, although there is a huge asymmetry in many dimensions between Korea and ASEAN. I will go into statistics, but I think there are a lot of areas where Korea and ASEAN can work together for our mutual benefits. That's what I mean by complementarity. And we are fit to help each other. Neither Korea nor ASEAN has been a dominant power in this part of the world. And neither of the two has harbored any territorial or military ambitions, unlike several other dialogue partners of ASEAN. So we are naturally fit to cooperate with each other. On the basis of this kind of complementarity and congeniality, I think there are many areas where we can collaborate together. Because we are supposed to look at the Korea-ASEAN partnership from a policy perspective, I'd like to make several specific suggestions as food for thought for the discussion this afternoon. Number one, we all expect that the Korea-ASEAN partnership will be upgraded to the comprehensive strategic partnership next year. And as we all know, next year will mark the 35th anniversary of the Korea-ASEAN dialogue relations. And we very much hope Korea's tradition of hosting commemorative or special summit meeting with ASEAN can continue next year, which began in 2009 on the 20th anniversary of Korea-ASEAN dialogue relations. Then the next question will be, then what we will be doing on the occasion of that commemorative summit next year. Number one, I think in addition to those cooperation projects we have been engaging for many years, I think Korea and ASEAN should be able to further cooperate in new areas, such as environmental protection or digital transformation, just to name a few. In that regard, the Clean Air for Sustainable ASEAN project or the Korea-ASEAN Digital Innovation Flagship Project, I think all those are the timely moves in the right direction. And maybe by utilizing the ASEAN-related funds, which will increase to $48 million per year by 2027, I'm sure we should be able to do a lot more meaningful things for the mutual benefit of Korea and ASEAN. And number two, I think relations among nations are like human relations. We should never take each other for granted. And if we are interested in building lasting ties of friendship and cooperation, then Koreans should be able to put themselves in the shoes of ASEAN and vice versa. And the best way of deepening that kind of mutual understanding between Korea and ASEAN, I believe, is to widen and broaden the exchange programs between the peoples of Korea and ASEAN. Not just having the online meetings, but by rather meeting and mingling face to face, especially when we are young, I think we can learn more effectively about our cultural differences and about our gaps in the way of thinking. And only by doing so, I believe Korea and ASEAN should be able to strengthen the foundation for the comprehensive strategic partnership. And in that regard, I believe once again, ASEAN-Korea Cooperation Fund and other ASEAN-related cooperation funds can be a useful tool. I strongly hope that ASEAN-Korea Cooperation Fund can begin a meaningful and wide-ranging youth exchange program, maybe starting next year or the year after next year. Last but not least, as middle powers and as responsible stakeholders of the Indo-Pacific, I think we should be able to figure out what kind of a region the Indo-Pacific should be and what kind of actions Korea and ASEAN can take together, even modest and very fundamental in nature at the beginning. Of course, Korea has supported strongly the AOIP, the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, and the principle of ASEAN centrality. But I think Korea and ASEAN should be able to have more substantive and direct say about the critical issues of peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. For that, I believe Korea and ASEAN should engage in more frequent, more candid, and more serious strategic dialogue to talk about various security and economic challenges in the region. Maybe we may not be able to come out with a very bold idea at the beginning, but beginning to talk about in that direction will be the first step in our long journey to make this part of the world more peaceful and more stable. Let me stop right here.
Thank you, Ambassador Lim, for your thoughtful comments. That itself packs a lot of ideas into, what can ASEAN and Korea do together on the basis of our complementary and congenial relationship as responsible stakeholders in the Indo-Pacific region. And your ideas for deliverables may be at the possible occasion of a commemorative summit next year. Next, I will move on to Ambassador Vutung for your remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, let me express my sincere thanks for the organizers for having me here to talk about our relations individually and collectively with Korea. I think that if I can make a point here, I would like to echo the points that have been raised not only here today, but also for at least 3 years since I've been here. The support for stronger and more effective relations between Korea and ASEAN have never been stronger. So from the policy perspective, I think that it would be a very easy case for us to argue for better and for more effective relations between Korea and ASEAN. So we can cite many reasons for that, and I agree totally with Dr. Lim about the 3 C's, and it is really a very good summary of what we have been achieving so far and what we are aiming for. I would like to add one more point here about the ASEAN countries and Korea being the small and medium-sized states. And we know that we have very strong need to be somehow less effective by the competition between the big powers. And right now, the competition between the US and China is the most visible one. And I think that as the small and medium-sized countries, we really want to be least affected by this competition. And the way forward is to support the ASEAN centrality and the ASEAN-led mechanisms in Asia-Pacific and Indo-Pacific. And I think that this, the support of the ASEAN centrality is giving both ASEAN and countries and Korea the most effective way to be coping with the growing competition. The next area for cooperation is to find the common areas for both sides to work on the feasible cooperative projects on Indo-Pacific. We have several ideas about the Indo-Pacific strategies that include the US one, the Japanese one, Korea and ASEAN. And I think that there are a lot of commonalities between Korea and ASEAN countries on how we would expect the cooperation in the Indo-Pacific area to be. So I think that I agree with the point raised by Mr. Lim that we should sit down and identify the areas where ASEAN and Korea can can cooperate with regard to the Indo-Pacific strategies, respectively. And I think that economic development, the international law and order, as well as the economic development, including the new supply chains, would be the most possible areas for cooperation between the two sides. I would end my my comments on the recommendation of what we would expect in the course of developing and promoting cooperation between ASEAN and Korea. Number one is the better understanding of the nature, of the comprehensive and strategic nature of the relationship. We both aim for the establishment of the comprehensive and strategic partnership between the two sides, but the need to understand what does it mean by saying strategic, and what does it mean by saying comprehensive. And I think that a better understanding of the nature would be giving the guideline for what we are aiming for. Secondly, we need to be both not only strategic and comprehensive, but we need to be really practical, because when it comes to cooperation, we really need specific projects and we really need deliverabilities. So that would tell us the limits or the opportunities, or the challenge or the opportunities facing this bilateral, I mean the partnership, so that we would have no false expectation, either too low or too high. And that leads to the third point I'd like to say, it is the management of expectation. So I think that this would serve the goals of being both strategic, comprehensive, and practical. I would end my remarks here with the case of relations between Vietnam and Korea. So I can only tell you that for the both sides, the decision to establish comprehensive and strategic partnerships is a relatively easy case for both sides to make, because of all the benefits of all the context that we have been discussing so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Vutung, for your comments, which adds really another layer to the intervention by Ambassador Lim on how we can work together to carve out a meaningful role in collaborating in the Indo-Pacific and creating more maneuvering room for small and middle powers like Korea and ASEAN. Next, we will invite Professor Shin. He is really one of the most renowned ASEAN watchers in Korea. We all learn from his books, his statements, and his work so far. So, Professor Shin, I invite you to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just realized that this is the first time I participate in Korea ASEAN Forum. I worked in the field of Southeast Asian studies for 40 years, but this is the first time I cannot believe it. But looking at the format of today's forum, this all is not familiar to me. So I thought I would give a kind of speech in the podium. So I come prepared with the text version of my comments. So I will read just portion of it and make myself very short. This is a long paper, but also my comments is based on the text version of Hassan Wirayuda's text, which was earlier sent to the center. and which is by itself very, very inspiring and provocative. I really like it, so I want to delve into the points you made. So I read portion of what I wrote here. To state my conclusion hastily, I wholeheartedly agree with Bahasan on all 3 points he raised in the keynote speech, the text version. Firstly, I want to draw your attention to his observation that Korea-ASEAN interaction is imbalanced and asymmetric, which Ambassador Im earlier brought up. He insightfully points out that these skewed relations nonetheless stimulate great cooperation and create synergies for growth and development on both sides. Korea and Southeast Asia are fundamentally different in many respects, and it is this very difference that fosters mutual attraction and the desire for more engagement. I have previously described these relationships of much attraction despite our differences, or perhaps because of our differences as a complementarity. For example, Korea possesses capital and technology, while Southeast Asia offers resources and labor. By exchanging and combining these assets, we create far greater added value than if they remain separate and unshared. I want to emphasize that such complementarities exist not only in economic relations, but also in the social and cultural spheres between Korea and Southeast Asia. The next point Bahasan offers is akin to advice. Korea should proactively explore new opportunities presented by the growing ASEAN economy and its expanding relations with the larger markets and more influential powers. Korea must recognize that ASEAN is growing rapidly, perhaps even outpacing Korea, thus narrowing the gap between Korea and Southeast Asia and making our interactions more balanced and symmetrical, to use Bahasan's terminology. If Korea fails to study how to capitalize on these new opportunities and address the accompanying challenges, it will fall behind in intensifying international competition in East Asia and globally. Finally, and in my view, more compellingly, Bahasan discusses is at the very end of your speech, your keynote speech. Bahasan discusses ASEAN's potential role in assisting South Korea in finding a way out of long-standing security stalemate. ASEAN, as a congenial partner for Korea, could serve as an adept bridge builder, quote unquote, for the two Koreas. More importantly, ASEAN's role could extend beyond the Korean peninsula to the broad East Asian region, and reading between the lines to our contemporary crisis-ridden world. To achieve this broad global objective, Bahasan calls for collaborative efforts by ASEAN and Korea to facilitate dialogues and engagements in conflict resolution worldwide, where today, quote, direct communication among superpowers seems elusive, unquote. In light of all this imperative to elevate this ASEAN-Korea strategic partnership is clear and pressing. The 21st century has defied our early hopes and expectations, being marred by strongman politics, personal rule, creeping authoritarianisms, resurgent military coups, and above all, wars and the peril of larger conflicts. At this critical juncture, Bahasan's suggestion that ASEAN and Korea could collectively emerge as anchors of stability and peace, quote and quote. It's not only heartening, but also timely. This will do. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Shin. Before we go back to Pak-san for his comments, let me just put out a couple of ideas for further food for thought as we will go back to each speaker for a few minutes. Ambassador Lim, as someone who's engineered and oversaw Korea's policy on North Korea, now especially as we work on these regional issues in the context of the Indo-Pacific strategy, what can Korea and ASEAN do together to foster each other's interest in these regional issues and really try and understand each other's point of view and what these issues mean to each other? Ambassador Vutung, what is ASEAN's expectations regarding Korea's forthcoming comprehensive strategic partnership? Because I think Korean government has been very clear that it really seeks a more strategic, security-driven relationship with ASEAN, and I think this administration has been very committed to that idea. How is that received in ASEAN, and what are some of the ASEAN's member states' expectations? Professor Shin, I know that you've had a long time to observe really Korea's relationship with ASEAN over the past couple of decades. And what are some of the most outstanding changes or the shift on both sides that you've been able to observe as we work toward the 35th anniversary of relations? Can we now invite Pak-san to share some of his thoughts?
I think much has been said by my fellow panelists. I would simply add to what I didn't mention in my earlier statements and some few observations. Number one, that ASEAN countries or Southeast Asia and Korea is somewhat rightly distanced. I said rightly because we are not, in terms of geography, we are not in close proximity. Normally, when you are directly bordering with your neighbor, there are always problems. For that matter, we, ASEAN and Korea, we don't have problems relating to our geography. So we are, for that matter, rather free of conflicts. That's an asset. That's an asset. Number two, that I didn't mention much in my earlier statement, but it's underlined by my colleagues here as panelists, that there is a need to address the perception gaps between our people and people of Korea. And for that matter, I commend the Korea ASEAN Center to organize competition among youths to write essays on ASEAN and Korean relations. So people-to-people contact is important, and in particular among the youths and students. But to me, equally important is to promote a relative good constituents for, my term is good constituents of intellectual mediator, scholars in Korea who understand ASEAN better, but likewise ASEAN scholars who understand Korea better. So both can play a role as intellectual mediator who can rightly interpret what's happened here in Korea and communicate to our own people in ASEAN and vice versa. For this exchange of scholars is important. Academic exchange is important. I'm eager during my visit last June, but also this time to meet with my counterparts, deans or president of a number of Korean universities. And I think we are more than eager to establish this scholarly context, academic context, in order to develop sufficient constituents of intellectual mediators. I would add that knowledge of language of ASEAN by Korean academics or students, but likewise knowledge about Korean language in Indonesia. I think I have quite a productive discussion this morning with the president of Sogang University on that matter. On strategic partnerships, from my experience, states are competing. When they establish a strategic partnership with country A, then a few years later we develop into comprehensive strategic partnerships, or then comprehensive strategic spatial relationships. I think terms or title is important because it reflects the will. In fact, commitment at the highest level, political level, to expand and deepen all aspects of our bilateral relationship. But what matters is what we can deliver. So I would suggest that I think it's been working quite well with Korea on a regular plan of actions. Say for each 5 years, we plan what we are going to do, what the target we set, and what hurdles that we have to remove in order to facilitate the attainment of that target. I must say that I must admit that during the time of President Yudhoyono, he always said that our strategic partnership that we developed since 2006, during my time as foreign minister, we see Korea is more forthcoming. That's an asset. And I think also the situation that we have today. So yes, strategic, comprehensive space relationship is important, at least in terms of title, and wish to develop a closer cooperation, but more importantly is to have a plan, a regular plan for, say, each 5 years, and we review at the end of 5 years and what we set the next target and what both sides can do to improve the state of our relationships. So I think those are what I wish to add. I share many points that my colleagues, the panelists, has just said in this forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak-san. Perhaps that perception gap is what keeps us on our toes to keep working together, working harder. And today's forum, I think, is a meaningful step in addressing that perception gap. Ambassador Lim?
Well, if I may paraphrase the question asked by Director General Chong, I think she's asking me to put myself in the shoes of the policymakers and to come out with some ideas about what to do with the security situation in the Indo-Pacific. Number one, I don't think we are hearing any kind of moderate voices in the region asking for diplomacy or dialogue. We are just hearing the voices of the superpowers like the United States or China. So for the moderate voices to carry more weight, I would rather suggest the creation of the informal middle power group in the Indo-Pacific region, so that we do not necessarily hear the voices and positions of Beijing and Washington, but we also want to hear the voices of all those medium or small-sized countries in the region. Perhaps they'll be asking for more role to be played by diplomacy and dialogue. And number two, I completely agree with Ambassador Tung about the need to adjust our expectation. Our goal should not be too high, but at the same time, it should not be too low. In that regard, I think military transparency can be one of those realizable goals in this part of the world. And to attain certain amount of military transparency, I think we need certain elementary confidence building measures. For instance, we might be interested in publishing a military white book containing all the basic information about conventional military preparedness of the countries in the region. Or, if I may go one step further, we might want to begin the exchange of observers for various sub-regional or regional military exercises. Of course, it will not be easy, but once again, by making the efforts in that direction, I hope and believe that we might be able to begin to create an atmosphere conducive for dialogue rather than clash and confrontation in the Indo-Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Lim. I think we'd go for hours just on some of the ideas that you proposed, but we must move on to Ambassador Vutung for his additional remarks.
I think that I cannot speak on behalf of all ASEAN countries about how we expect Korea to contribute to the relations between Korea and ASEAN in the framework of a comprehensive and strategic partnership. But I would like to think that there are three areas that the expectations are most focusing on. Number one is economic development. The economic development for bilateral relations between Korea and individual countries are easy to be identified. But for more effective cooperation between Korea and ASEAN as an organization, I think that we would expect that Korea would base the policy on economic cooperations on the major economic development initiatives by ASEAN. And by that, I mean the ASEAN connectivity, how Korea would contribute to the grand project of ASEAN building the connectivity among ASEAN countries. And next is the project for reducing the developmental gaps among the ASEAN members. So I think that is the two areas that Korea can be more expected. Also in the area of economic cooperation, I think the new areas, either it is climate change, to cope with the climate change, or to face the need of transforming our economy digitally, or in energy transformation, as well as the establishment of new supply chains. That are the areas that ASEAN countries are expecting Korea to be more contributing. Why? Because Korea has not only the resource, meaning the capital, the know-how, but also the willingness to share with the ASEAN countries. So I think that it is the in the economic area, and I also want to add the human resource development for ASEAN too. So the ASEAN students can come here to study the knowledge, especially in the science and technology from Korea. Number two is the expectation on the joint cooperation on the implementation of the Indo-Pacific strategy or Indo-Pacific outlook. So I think this is broad enough, but the focus would be expected on the maritime security. And I think that in the area of maritime security, there are a number of things that the two sides can do together. Number one is to uphold the rule of law So the freedom of navigation, freedom of flight, and peaceful resolution of territory disputes is very important. Two is the capacity building, especially in the maritime area. So the transfer of the used ship, naval ships, is very good example of how Korea would support the ASEAN countries in the building their capacities in maritime domain. And the regular security dialogue focusing on the maritime issue is also, I think, expected. And number three is here in Korea. We have the increasing and growing communities of ASEAN people in Korea, studying, working, visiting. And I think that the expectation is that this growing community would be thriving in here, would be welcoming in here, and would be integrated into a part of the Korean society. And I think that it is on the people-to-people level, it is greatly and increasingly expected from the ASEAN countries.
Thank you, Ambassador, for sharing the views from the other side. Last but not least, Professor Shin.
Well, if we go back to 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I think nobody would have imagined that our relations, between Korea and Southeast Asia have grown this much. If you go into every field, every area, every sector, the growth has been so tremendous and fundamental, so we cannot, I think, elaborate on each of that. If I share my own experience in academia, for example, I started to study Southeast Asian studies only in America after I went to the graduate school. It was in the early 1980s. I was the only student who went to United States and to study Southeast Asian studies. I majored in Indonesia, and all of my friends, who are studying in United States, call me up and say, "You are crazy. Where is Southeast Asia? How come you study Southeast Asia? There is no such a field, right?" I'm only the second student who studies Southeast Asian studies in social science. There's one senior to me who became a professor in history in Korea, and he retired. He was like 10 years older than I am. He was kind of, a deviant case, but I was actually the beginning of Korean students go abroad and begin to study Southeast Asian studies, but it was still very rare. When I came back to Korea, my old professors in Korea all worried about, whether, I can get a job or not, right? But now, Southeast Asian studies in Korea is quite an established field. There are hundreds of, scholars who are working on Southeast Asian studies, working on each country. I think each country, all 10, 11, countries are represented by scholarly work in Korea. So it's even in the academic field, the change was so rapid, so fundamental. I think if we can summarize, how much there has been change between 30 or 40 years ago and now. I think the change has been from kind of disinterest in Southeast Asia now, deep interest in Southeast Asia, and also initially our interest in Southeast Asia started from economic, right, field, economic area. Especially in trade and resource exploitation, but now it has grown, spread to every field, like in social and cultural, and even political and security area, as you, Bahasan mentioned in your speech. So I cannot, imagine how fundamental and big the change has been.
Thank you very much. I think, regretfully, that's all the time we have for this session, and we will move on to the second session. Thank you very much to all the speakers for their insightful comments.
Thank you, Your Excellencies, for the insightful presentations and discussions. The next session will feature the ASEAN-Korea cooperation from the scholarly perspectives, and we are very honored to have with us today distinguished figures from ASEAN and Korea. The session will start in 10 minutes. It will start at 3:05, so please stay tuned while we prepare for the second session. Thank you.
나중에 저희가 빼면 안 되는데 이렇게 가시대요? 아니 괜찮아. 아니 다시 잡아야죠. 시간이 있어야 되는데 빨리 하셔야 될 것 같거든요. 이것도 높낮이 안 돼서 다 맞춘 건데.
이 정도만 빼면 되나요?
네.
여기 의자 사용하실 수 있어요? 그럼 이거 안 걸려요?
끝나면 그냥 여기 내가 안 그래도 이렇게 잡아놨거든요. 가운데? 여기만 이렇게 놔두고 진짜. 아니 이게 사람이 문제예요. 이게 사람이고 이게 여기 딱 오면 돼. 이따가.
이거 높이 안.
이거 높이 잡아야죠.
맞춘 거니까 이거.
써보시겠어요?
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll now begin our second forum session. Please be seated. Thank you.
아 여기 아니 여기 아니. 잠깐만.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin shortly. Please be seated. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the second session of the forum will begin shortly. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll now begin our second forum session. Session 2, entitled Navigating the Strategic Future of the ASEAN-Korea Partnership, Evolving Issues and Major Challenges from Scholarly Perspectives, will be moderated by Dr. Lee Chae-hyun, a Senior Fellow of Asan Institute for Policy Studies. I would like to invite the moderator and all the panel speakers to come up to the stage. They already are. Please give a warm welcome to Professor Oh Yoo-na, Associate Professor from Seoul National University, Professor Kim Hyung-jong, Associate Professor from Yonsei University, Dr. Chang Van Nerth, President of Asian Vision Institute, Mr. Julio Amador III, Interim President for Foundation for the National Interest of the Philippines. Dr. Lee, the floor is now yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very good afternoon. I'm Jae-hyun Lee from the ASEAN Institute for Policy Studies. It's my honor to moderate this session. And when I was to moderate this session, I got a few thoughts on the Korea-ASEAN cooperation. The first, there are quite a number of Korea-ASEAN forums that are going on in Seoul and in ASEAN countries. But every time I join those forums, I find new aspects and fresh ideas. So there are more we can dig out from the Korea-ASEAN relations. For that, I believe there should be more discussion and forums between Korea and Southeast Asian countries. And I'm moderating this session, but I know my panelists are all moderate people, so I don't have to moderate them, but I have to moderate their time. We will finish by 10 past 4. And there's one more housekeeping announcement because Dr. Ching Banaris has to leave at 4 o'clock to catch his airplane. So I will give him first a chance to speak and discussion. And then after that, I will invite Dr. Oh, Kim, and Mr. Amado. Okay. Let me introduce first Dr. Ching Banaris. He's from the Asia Vision Institute based in Phnom Penh. He is one of the most well-known experts from Cambodia when it comes to Korea-ASEAN cooperation and ASEAN strategic issue. He writes extensively on Cambodia's foreign policy and Korea-ASEAN cooperation. The floor is yours. You got 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee, and very great honor and pleasure to be here. Would like to extend my gratitude to the organizer for having me. Listening to the keynote speech and the first panel discussion, I just would like to add this from academic perspective on kind of reflection a bit on about our bilateral relationship, look at the current state and moving forward when we reached a 35th anniversary next year. Before that, I would like to highlight the current kind of geopolitical developments in the region and the world and how it affects our bilateral relationship. 3 main kind of mega trends that we are witnessing at the global level is the decline of global governance. That is the first thing, kind of challenge that we need to face. Second is the decline of multilateralism. And the third is the decline of international law, rule-based international order. So our world is embarking on this dark woods scenario, and we are walking together through these dark woods. A lot of uncertainties, vulnerabilities, and challenges we have to face. So we need to consider and contemplate what we can do together to show up global governance, multilateralism, and rule-based international order. Second layer at our regions, the Asia-Pacific region or Indo-Pacific region. We are also in the midst of intensifying geopolitical competition or rivalries, especially between the US and China. All of us, Southeast Asia, we have sent our clear, consistent signal that we are not interested in taking sides. We wish to exercise our strategic autonomy and agency at the maximum level. So that is clear our position. We don't take sides in these competitions. Second, we uphold the principle of openness and inclusiveness. We have seen several minilaterals, especially exclusive security clubs, that may threaten ASEAN centrality and ASEAN unity. And we have sent clear signal again that we need to uphold this principle of inclusive and open regionalism. And the third, within our region, is economics determine politics. Ambassador Vu Tung from Vietnam stressed this in terms of economic cooperation. So for us, economic security is our national security. So for dialogue partners who would like to engage Southeast Asia, you need to put money first. Show us your money, right? So economic first. We also concerned about security and geostrategic issues. But when we come to geostrategic security issue, it's very challenging for us to stay neutral and independent. So that's why we need to broaden our perspective and stressing the important economic operations. Because economic cooperation, what we call a low-hanging fruit. And cultural cooperation also another low-hanging fruit. So if our relation is our shadow by geostrategic and security, we go nowhere. We go nowhere. It's very difficult to build consensus on geostrategic and security issues. So that, I think, the recommendation by Ambassador Tung reflects the reality on the ground and reflects the aspiration of Southeast Asia. Even though he's so humble and modest that this not reflect the whole ASEAN perception, but I share with him, I'm from Cambodia, I share this is ASEAN aspiration. Economic prosperity. Okay, the current state, the ASEAN-Korea relations, from my perspective, have been progressing positively over the decades. And one of the reasons that this progress has been achieved is through the benign power perception. We don't see Korea as a threat at all. Korea is a benign middle power. And you don't have an ambition to build a military power, Korea. So Korea have been very consistent. You give economic and cultural diplomacy first, not a military diplomacy, not a hard security diplomacy. So if you're consistent and stay on this track, I believe our trust and partnership will continue to grow. But if any force that change Korea to emphasize hard security, it would be a big mistake. So that will affect our trust, strategic trust between ASEAN, Southeast Asia, and Korea. Because we always see Korea as a kind of a benign power, a country that doesn't have ambition to become a military power. So that is the explanation of the achievement. And the current state of affairs of our bilateral relationship, I think, is at very high level now. So I think it's ripe that next year we upgrade it to comprehensive strategic partnership. It's not only by name. I think one of the speakers in the previous session mentioned about the substance. We need to be substantive, and our dialogue need to be more meaningful, not just talk, but we need to walk the talk. So action-oriented cooperations. And this can be a role model for ASEAN external relations with Republic of Korea, with South Korea, emphasizing result-based cooperation and trust-driven partnership building. So next year, question from the previous panel about what should be included in the comprehensive strategic partnership. I share the views of the previous panels. I just would like to stress one thing: innovation diplomacy. Korea is amazing. For those who've been here for some time, you see the power innovation of Korea. And this power have not been transformed into a diplomatic tool yet. So if Korea smartly use innovation diplomacy, use this innovation capacity to exercise its soft power, including engaging Southeast Asia, I think Korea will be the first the best of the best in terms of innovation alliance building between Korea and Southeast Asia. And it will create a lot of opportunities for both the regions and the people, Southeast Asia and Korea. So let's build innovation alliance between Korea and Southeast Asia for next year onward, including in the comprehensive strategic partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Banaris. Because you have to leave early, I will give you the question first. My question is, as you can remember, Cambodia was the ASEAN chair country in 2022, last year, and the ASEAN leaders signed a statement on mainstreaming ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific in every ASEAN cooperation. And if you go further, then in 2019, Japan signed a separate statement on AOIP cooperation, and after that, India, Australia signed the same document. And this year at the ASEAN +3 and EAS summit, China, US, and South Korea signed the same joint statement. So my question is, what is the mainstreaming of AOIP, and are you intend to further strengthening ASEAN centrality through this AOIP mainstreaming effort? And what South Korea has to put to mainstream the AOIP or strengthen ASEAN centrality in our proposal for comprehensive strategic partnership with ASEAN? You got 2 or 3 minutes to answer that. I mean, the question is very broad, but time is limited. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Cambodia, as a chair of ASEAN last year, had pushed a lot of agenda, including CASI. Right? You signed this agreement in Phnom Penh. During the chairmanship, Cambodia also pushed a lot on the Asian outlook on Indo-Pacific strategy. Even though it is initiated by Indonesia, but as a member of ASEAN, we are responsible to promote this concept and engage all dialogue partners in this ASEAN outlook Indo-Pacific, because we share a common wisdom and vision that we don't want to see this region as a theater of geopolitical rivalry and competition, and ASEAN should be the central or at the center of this growth or dynamics in the Indo-Pacific. So AOIP, politically and strategically, is to put ASEAN at the center. So all initiative, the Korea version, Japan version, US version of Indo-Pacific, you need to be in line with the AOIP. Including the Belt and Road Initiative of China, you need to be in line with the AOIP. So AOIP have a strategic kind of hidden agenda behind this initiative, so that to put Southeast Asia at the center. And we don't want to be a theater or platform of geopolitical rivalry. So in that case, we achieved that goal. So now several dialogue partners have signed on to AOIP, and last year, Korea already signed to this. So what next? We have 4 practical area of cooperation under the AOIP, and we have set a certain rules of behavior or interstate relation, which everyone, you need to comply with that rules and principles and area of cooperation. But I think we need to be customized in a way. Let's say with Korea, we may highlight certain areas. With Japan, maybe other areas. With the US, Australia, and China. So we need to be tailored. It needs to be tailored and customized. So with Korea, I think next year will be what I call a momentous kind of timing for us, because it's very special year next year. So the thing is, you can learn from the past experience of ASEAN relationship with adult partner, what are the loopholes and shortcomings, and what we can learn from it. And then we need to give emphasis to this partnership. So we need to put AOIP, of course, at the comprehensive strategic partnership and develop practical area cooperations. And it should be 3-driven and empowered. Trust-based, result-oriented cooperation, and innovation empowered. So innovation empowered, so something new when it comes to our partnership with dialogue partners. So trust-based, result-oriented, and innovation empowered. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our time is very limited, and I will invite Professor Oyuna from Seoul National University. She is one of the most well-known ASEAN specialists in South Korea, and in fact, you can find in this room you can find more than half of ASEAN specialists in South Korea, like Dr. Oh Kim, and over there Dr. Baek Hyun. And actually, we don't have that many specialists on. We have many specialists on Southeast Asia, but we don't have that many specialists on ASEAN in South Korea, and we have more than half of them in this room. Anyway, let me invite Dr. Oyuna. You got 10 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Thank you for the invitation. It is great to be here. My presentation, let me use so I'm using slides. Okay. My presentation has 3 parts. The first part is about the global economic and geopolitical landscape we find ourselves in. The second part is reviewing where we are in terms of the economic cooperation. I look into 2 areas, recent performance and long-term trends. And the third part is about the opportunities for and challenges faced by our cooperation, and particularly involving the ongoing issue of supply chain reconfiguration and the emerging opportunities created by the electric vehicle developments. So just briefly, let's look at the global context. So the economic growth has been slowing down across the world. The key major factors of concern are high inflation and high interest rates and the slowdown of the Chinese economy. And we are continuing, and for the geopolitical landscape, we continue to face challenges from the US-China strategic competition and the war in Ukraine. And now we have a war in the Middle East. So we are facing multiple layers of uncertainties and risks. So how are we doing in this turbulent world? So if you look at the recent performance of ASEAN-Korea economic ties, it is clear that we have weathered the pandemic. Across trade, foreign direct investment, and development cooperation, our ties are stronger when compared to, let's say, 5 years ago. And last year, the trade between ASEAN and Korea reached $207 billion for the first time. And the Korean firms made $9 billion investment commitment, new investment commitment to ASEAN countries. And Korean government made $1.2 billion commitment to development cooperation with ASEAN. And in the last 3 years, Korea signed FTAs, free trade agreements, with 3 ASEAN economies, Indonesia, Cambodia, and the Philippines. And the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, to which both Korea and ASEAN are members, went into force last year. So if you look at the recent trends, we are doing okay. But what is more interesting, I think, is where we have been seen from the long-term perspective. So, and I'm using trade as a metric here. So here you see 2 graphs. They both track the share of ASEAN and Korea in each other's total trade. Okay? So on the left-hand side, you see how South Korea's key trading partners have fared over the past 30 years. So as you can see, ASEAN, or the share of ASEAN in Korea's trade reached about 10% in 1992. and it rose gradually to 15% in recent years, right? And on the right-hand side, you see for ASEAN, the share of Korea in Korea's external trade stayed at around 5% for the most part of the period and rose to 8%, right? And here I make 3 points. First, our trade partnership has been very stable, right? And second, that partnership or the importance to each other's trade has been increasing, right? Gradually over time, right? It has been an upward trend, right? So that's why I'm saying that we have a very steady partnership, right? So remember the word steady, right? And third, and most importantly, you have to contrast that steadiness to what happened to other countries, right? So in the background, you see huge changes in countries' positions, right? The dramatic rises, declines, and crossovers for top trading partners. So I think that this steadiness is something that is underappreciated about ASEAN-Korea relationship. And I think that could be a source of our strength. And I may add that the ASEAN has been important, more important to Korea's trade than Korea has been to ASEAN. So now let's talk about the opportunities for cooperation. So the supply chain reconfiguration or realignment is an ongoing issue, right, for the region. And it has become more important for critical mineral supply and tech manufacturing. So in recent years, new partnerships have been formed and the existing partnerships expanded between ASEAN and many of its external partners. And Korea is certainly part of these developments. So for example, this year, Korea and Vietnam announced a joint supply chain development of rare earth. And Korean firms are making, Korean semiconductor firms are making new investment or expanding their presence in ASEAN. But as you know, there are limits to diversification because supply chains have become internationalized for a long time. And the network of linkages across countries have become very, very complex. And there is a reason why the production of many critical commodities have become concentrated in the first place, right? And even if, and finally, the realigned supply chains, even if they are formed, there may be still vulnerable to disruptions, right? And so that was the ongoing opportunity. And when you talk about emerging opportunities for cooperation for us, you have to talk about electric vehicle developments, right? So the EVs have come to prominence for our purposes in recent years as a result of the confluence of advances in EV technology and also the EV mandates and policies in key automotive markets, and perhaps more importantly to ASEAN, the global, the rising global investment boom, right? Or the rising global EV investment. So in the interest of time, I will limit myself to the issue of ASEAN-Korea cooperation in this area. So there are 3 levels of actors, in addition to, of course, firms and private sector. So at the ASEAN level, ASEAN leaders, they came together and they set the basic principle, right, this year, May this year, of EV development for the region. Yeah, okay, I am, okay, 3 more minutes, okay. So they set the basic principle for the EV development for the region when they declared they issued the declaration on developing regional electric vehicle ecosystem. So that was May, and that was extended to ASEAN Plus 3 in September this year, which Korea is a part of. So there, the ASEAN Plus 3 leaders emphasized cooperation and collaboration across the whole spectrum of EV development, from mining critical minerals to battery disposal and recycling. And at the ASEAN member states, governments have put in place various policies for EV development and battery production. So countries are eager for cooperation and investment for EV in this area. And they want cooperation, of course, from within ASEAN, but also from outside ASEAN. And Korea, for its part, announced Korea-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative last year, where it specifically emphasized cooperation in EVs and batteries. So we have, in a broad sense, we have basic components for cooperation in place. And with respect to ASEAN-Korea cooperation, EV electric cars are interesting because it creates a new opportunity for cooperation driven by techno-industrial development, which is rare. And it also help us upgrade our partnership toward high-tech and value-added manufacturing, where Korea has an advantage of. I think a parallel may be found in the emergence of smartphones in the late 2000s. So it is something exciting, but there are challenges, right? So because despite the excitement and investment boom, there is still uncertainty about the extent to which the extent to which the EVs can really transform the transport sector. And of course, there are huge environmental concerns about the mining and battery recycling, and perhaps more, or equally importantly, expanding and decarbonizing the power grid to support EVs is a daunting task for ASEAN. And finally, these EV supply chains are also vulnerable to disruptions. However, when it comes to EVs, the potential is great, and the momentum is here. So I think we should pay attention to. So ASEAN EV development, to the extent that it is relevant to ASEAN-Korea cooperation, is something new and exciting. And so I think we should explore this opportunity, building on the steady partnership we have created for the past few decades. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have some friends in the Hyundai motor industry, and they take the electric vehicle and battery quite seriously, and they try very hard to create a new market in Southeast Asian countries. Let me turn to Dr. Kim Hyung-jong. He's my good old friend, and we have been paired in so many this kind of a forum. When he make a presentation, I discuss, and I make a presentation, he discusses. Okay, please, you got 10 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. And also, I'd like to thank to the organizer, ASEAN-Korea Center, and Sogang University for having me at such a meaningful event. So actually, I learned many things from the previous sessions. Among the issues mentioned by the panelists in the previous sessions, what I focus here, I want to share with you, is that the possible role of the ASEAN in dealing with the Korean Peninsula and peace process. So actually can I? Right. So let me begin by with these three questions. So the presentation should be able to give the answer at the end of the presentation, but considering the time limitation, I try to answer first, then I'll try to my best to elaborate the rest of the slide contents. So three questions. I think to understand and to implement the possible role of the ASEAN actually we need to understand first that ASEAN's the very characteristic, the neutrality. So my first question is that is ASEAN's neutrality strategic or normative enforcement? So my answer for this is that this both. So this ASEAN's neutrality, actually the multifaceted concept, it is strategic in the sense that ASEAN strives to maintain its independence, autonomies in international affairs. In other sense, it tries to maximize national interest. But it's also inherently normative because it's based on the principle of the many things, non-interference principles and peaceful conflict resolution and respect for sovereignties and so on. So we need to understand that this is the first characteristic of the ASEAN neutrality as strategic and normatives. Second thing is, my question is that what is normative nature of the ASEAN neutralities, and it's possible whether it's the potential for the change. So as you know that the ASEAN neutralities has revolved around the fostering dialogues and the building trust and preventing the potential, the tension among the related parties and so on. But however, as norm evolved, that there is a potential for change in response to shifting regional dynamics. So third question, what does ASEAN neutrality imply to Korean Peninsula? So I may reserve this question for the last part of my presentation. So actually the ASEAN's neutrality, so neutrality is not only claimed by the ASEAN, but claimed by the many other medium and small power countries. But we can see that the positive side of the neutrality, unlike the realist approaches, the constructive, understand that this neutrality, that is a possible and role to make the positive contribution in international and regional orders in the name of the positive peace and by creating some rooms for the dialogues among the related parties. So I will explain that this kind of the theoretical spectrum. So what I want to say is that in terms of the theory, institutionalism, especially the discursive institutionalism, can provide some kind of the understanding of the possible role of the ASEAN, and also it could provide the frameworks for the understanding inter-Korean relations, because it also shows that especially the discursive institutionalism may focus on that how it can change at a certain moment and in historical junctures. So here, and you may refer to the printed materials. And actually the centralities that is heavily related to identities, how we define that ourness and so on. And also it is related that how do they use, interact, and especially over the dialogue. So actually the dialogue is not as a tool for the maximizing their national interest in the ASEAN context. Dialogue has served as itself as a goal for their interaction. And so by having dialogue itself, it is very meaningful interaction among the ASEAN member countries. So as evolved these ASEAN norms. So mediation, that is the important role, it often claimed by and then tried by the ASEAN. There are also the many cases we can see that the positive, the cases of the ASEAN's mediations. And ASEAN also has been successful in institutionalizing norm through the agreements and treaties such as the TACs and the event of the ARF and so on. So we can find that South Korea has evolved involved in the ASEAN-related meeting, while the focusing on the ASEAN's norms and the neutralization of the ASEAN things. So ASEAN norms not only evolved as the principle for the ASEAN member countries, but also it has diffused to mainly through that the expanded regionalism in East Asia context. As you know that there's a number of the regional architectures. And so mainly, what I have told you so far, that is the normative the aspect of the ASEAN neutrality. But here, while reading the recent development and its response of the ASEAN's response to the changes, so we can find that ASEAN actually it has used that ASEAN's neutrality as a kind of the regional strategy to reduce the burden of the individual countries' the bilateral choices, while the maximize is the usefulness of the ASEAN as a regional entity. You can refer the case of the AOIP and rivalry between the China and the US, even the Ukraine, the wars, and so on. So what you can draw from that ASEAN's the practice of the neutrality, that is that, as I said, that ASEAN neutrality served not only as a norm, but as a strategy. And so ASEAN has utilized the neutrality as a strategic tool, but it has been very cautious when dealing with the superpowers. So let me conclude. Before that, I want to show that Korea widely recognized as a regional actor. When it comes as individual countries, it probably ranked behind the major powers. But when it comes to the regional initiative, which include the New Southern policy, but is highly recognized. So it is important that South Korea's regional approaches engage with the ASEAN things. So it has mentioned that the strategic comprehensive partnership. Here, some other partner countries that already made such the partnership or the ongoing. But here also we can find that the interest and the value-based norm are very important component to form that the strategic and comprehensive strategic partnerships and so on. So let me conclude by showing that some implication for the ASEAN's potential role in Korea's peninsula peace process. So actually we need to understand the ASEAN's role, and as I mentioned that the strategic and the normative dimension. So many times, for most of the times of the bilateral relations, South Korea approaches the ASEAN as a platform to compete compete against the North Korea. But otherwise, but we have to understand some convergences between the normative and the strategic demands from the ASEAN side. But one thing we need to be careful that is that under the current government, South Korean's government, strengthening the relations between US and Japan may pose potential divergence in the strategic understanding of the ASEAN member state, as we focus on that very cautious approach to major power diplomacies. So it may give that the ASEAN's the perception that ASEAN may perceive that Korean peninsula issues as an extension of the major power, which may limit the role of the ASEAN in promoting and dealing with the Korean peninsula peace issues. So let me stop here, then I may discuss in a Q&A session.
Thank you so much. It's pity that we don't have much time because your presentation is quite extensive, and even you quoted Habermas there. I was shocked. Anyway, let me move on to the last speaker, Mr. Julio Amador. He writes extensively on the Philippines foreign policy as well as defense and security issues, and you can find his article easily on the web. Please, you got 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. And in the interest of time, you already have my PowerPoint, so let me just summarize it in 2 pages. Well, it's really a welcome change to talk about relationship between ASEAN and the partner, the dialogue partner, particularly Korea, because it is such a positive relationship. In other ASEAN plus dialogue partner relationships, you would have to sift through a lot of stuff to find the good relationship, because it's always intertwined with those challenging aspects of the relationship. But with Korea, it's generally positive, and that is welcome. And I believe that when we talk about a comprehensive strategic partnership between ASEAN and Korea, this is, of course, a welcome development. But I would caution that if we have to make it meaningful, that comprehensive strategic partnership should improve human lives, create jobs, provide or invite investments, and improve people-to-people linkages. Because one problem with so-called comprehensive strategic partnerships is that publicly, everyone says it's good. Privately, people actually don't know how different that would be to existing partnerships in the ASEAN context. The maritime sphere actually is one area of cooperation, of regional cooperation, where ASEAN and Korea can play an active role. In particular, it's not only about defense issues, but we are very much concerned about the marine environment in ASEAN, and Korea can certainly play a role in this. And I would only cite combating illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing as one major area of concern, along with maritime pollution and maritime plastic pollution. And here, Korea's technology would play a meaningful role in improving regional marine environment protection. Bilaterally, Philippine-Korea ties are moving from strength to strength. We recently signed a Philippine-Korea Free Trade Agreement, and I would like to recognize our ambassador here, Ambassador Tess Dizon de Vega, for her role in seeing the completion of that critical economic agreement to completion. In the defense area, the relationship between the Philippines and Korea are deep, but generally unrecognized. As many are aware, Filipino blood was shed in defense of Korea's freedom. We now need to have a military relationship that goes beyond procurement of military equipment, but should also involve technology transfers. Finally, socio-cultural relationships are something that we need also to focus on. Did you know that there are more Koreans in the Philippines than Filipinos in Korea? In a study of the University of the Philippines, they found that about 93,000 Koreans are living in the Philippines as migrants, including students who are studying in different Filipino universities. We have more Korean towns than ever in the Philippines and distributed around the provinces. And whereas we have about 52 to 62,000 Filipinos who are here in Korea. But, the flights today and in this week coming to Korea are full of Filipinos. And if you're going around Seoul right now, you would think that you're in Manila, except that the weather is nicer. So why did I talk about the bilateral relations? Because it's critical. Our shared values, our belief in the rule of law, our belief in international law as equalizers, as well as our shared commitment to human rights, democracy, and good governance will be important as we walk together towards addressing the changing global landscape. In this moment of history, the Philippines and Korea are both pivotal states, both in terms of our shared alliances, our shared history, but also our shared geography, where we are front and center of growing international developments. I will leave my comments and welcome any questions later on. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Well, after these three presentations, I got some specific questions for each speakers. The first for Dr. Oyuna. You talked a lot about the economic cooperation between Korea and Southeast Asian countries, or between Korea and ASEAN. And if you look at the regional economic situation today, one trend I noticed was the rising protectionism, especially from the United States side. Since the beginning of a US-China strategic competition, the US government puts a lot of emphasis on the supply chain issue and technological competition with China, and the result is the concept like reshoring, friendshoring, and blah, blah, blah. And it all indicates the direction for a more protectionist economic policy. in the region. So given the context, what we can do together between Korea and ASEAN to overcome this growing protectionist trend? Because most of the regional countries in this part of the world are heavily dependent on trade. So the free trade is quite important. I wish to get some insight for that. And for Dr. Kim, actually you opened a Pandora box at the end of your presentation. That's Korean Peninsula. It's always tricky and thorny-ish between Korea and Southeast Asian countries. And if you look at North Korea, South Korea relation today, the United States is a big player in the Korean Peninsula, but it's distracted by other things like war in Ukraine and recent the conflict in the Middle East, and on top of U.S.-China strategic competition. And I believe the situation in China is pretty much the same. China is wholly occupied with strategic competition with the United States, and recently puts a lot of emphasis on South cooperation. So nobody is really concerned about the Korean Peninsula. And at the moment, the Korean government position strategy toward North Korea is pretty much the same. So in that context, in what way ASEAN can contribute to make these big powers, South Korea, to be more, to engage more with North Korea, and what's the role of ASEAN in the context? And the last question to Mr. Julio Amado. You mentioned a little bit about the military cooperation as well as maritime cooperation between Korea and Southeast Asia in general, and specifically with the Philippines. And since the New Southern policy in the previous government, there was a lot of talk about maritime security cooperation between Korea and ASEAN. And we talked a lot about the capacity building and the maritime domain awareness. And South Korean Navy and Coast Guard are all very much geared up for cooperation with ASEAN countries, but they don't really know where to start. So could you suggest some specific program for capacity building and MDA cooperation? Okay, Dr. Oh?
Yes, thank you for a very tough question. So you're right, there are limits to what non-great powers can do. So actually what you see over the past few years is more, countries react to the constraints imposed by the US and also China and also their relationships. But even there are things we can do, at least to secure or prepare ourselves to certain disruptions. So I know it is not a very satisfactory answer, but so what you see is that many of the bilateral efforts involving Korea and ASEAN countries and many others, I think is a kind of a manifestation of that sort of a problem. So you react and you choose a partner and try to share information, right, and establish channels of communication for times of emergency. And so that is where we are, but something I think we can aspire to is that, so maybe between Korea and ASEAN, right now we only have bilateral dealings, but as you know, just like FTAs, it is very costly, right? And it could be exclusionary. So the aspirations are a little bit difficult, but then somehow, if there is a way we can elevate these bilateral efforts to more regional, so efforts, to make supply chains more resilient, that would be great.
Thank you for your question. I think that's very important issues. But as you mentioned that the U.S. is probably one of the most important the parties regarding the peace process. But I think the absence of the U.S. was its rivalry relation with China actually not a big challenge for the possible ASEAN's possible role in the Korean Peninsula, because as I mentioned in my presentation, actually when it involved the great powers, the ASEAN seems to be very cautious and then not such active there, but the passive than the reactive rather than an active. So, but important thing is that the South Korean government's the choice. So when it comes to issue of the Korean Peninsula, actually it is interrelated with the foreign diplomacies on the ASEAN things. So when we have the severe and the high tension with North Korea, actually our room for that ASEAN diplomacy is shrank historically. So actually the choice is with the South Korean government whether it would utilize the ASEAN as a kind of the room for the dialogues or as the honest mediator. But I'm afraid that under the current government's approaches and then the strategies on the name of the Indo-Pacific strategies, it seems to be that highly unlikely to put emphasis on that importance and role of the ASEAN in mediating, because basically it has kept and it is expected to keep this hard line against North Korea. So, but somehow, if we still need to be positive, then we often hear that from the ASEAN side that its willingness and its on that is possible role. Previously, the Indonesian president has proposed that have proposed to invite the leader of the North Korea at the event of the ASEAN-Korea Special Summit, and also at the Track 2 meeting, and even one of the participant of the EAF, which was held 2 days ago, they proposed that the EAF should discuss the issue of the North Korea. And another Track 2, that is the NEAT meeting, once considered that issue of the North Korea rather than the sensitive issues, right? So what I want to say is regardless of the changing and then the absence of the direct involvement of the U.S., but the most important choice in line with the South Koreans, the perception of the North Korea, and is the grand strategies on the name of the Indo-Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you are well aware of, a few months back we had the Mindoro oil crisis, and Korea's help and Korean technology was actually vital to ensuring that Mindoro's waters were eventually saved from the marine pollution. Now, consider bringing this to a higher level to ASEAN, and we're talking about Korea's experience in responding to dark fleets, right? And many Southeast Asian countries are suffering from problems of illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. Now, combine all of this, including Korea's experience in maritime domain awareness, and you do have a lot of practical areas for cooperation. And that's just, for example, for maritime law enforcement, for fisheries law enforcement, and the Coast Guard. But on the military sphere also, you would see that in many Southeast Asian countries, minilaterals and through ASEAN, there are now openness to ideas of joint patrols or joint military initiatives. And we think that Korea's presence in this would be critical to regional security. And moving forward, again, that question of Korea not only as a supplier, but also a source of technology, I think, because many countries in the region would want Korea not only to be sellers of products, but also sharers of technology. That would be critical to defense procurements moving forward.
Thank you. When I just before the beginning of this session, I promised that we'll finish by 4:10. But we are a bit early, and if I mean, Vanessa, if you have to catch a plane, you can leave early if you want. Why don't you give a big hands to Dr. Banaris? So we got 7 more minutes to go. I would like to ask one more question to all panelists. This is about the Korea's Indo-Pacific strategy. If you look at Southeast Asian countries, some countries obviously they adopted Indo-Pacific concept for their foreign policy, but some other countries they are still sticking to Asia-Pacific, or they oppose the concept of Indo-Pacific. So when South Korean government approaches Southeast Asian countries with Indo-Pacific strategy or Indo-Pacific region, what do you expect as a response from Southeast Asian countries? Can we build really really solid cooperation on the base of Indo-Pacific? Because does it make any sort of internal disunity among Southeast Asian countries? South Korea wants Indo-Pacific cooperation in the framework of Indo-Pacific, but some Southeast Asian countries, they prefer Asia-Pacific, and so there could be some internal problem of Southeast Asian countries. What do you think?
Is that a question or statement?
Both, I believe. Anyone insight on that?
Right. If I'm in a position to respond to your question, then I think actually what South Korea can provide and can cooperate with ASEAN actually still in line with that whatever called that GACIS and Indo-Pacific strategies and so on. But problem is that when he claimed that whatever we are going to do, that is a part of the Indo-Pacific strategies. So as I mentioned in my presentation, so Indo-Pacific strategy, when it comes to the ASEAN's response to that is it seems to be very neutral. So when they claim that AOIP, the ASEAN's neutralities and region's neutralities, and free from that kind of the rivalry, the tensions over this shared territorial the space. That is the basic stance of the ASEAN countries. But we claim that GACIS, right, the Korea ASEAN Solidarity Initiative, that we claim that it is the part of the Korea's Indo-Pacific strategy. So that is in nature of the two strategy is contradictory rather than complementary. So that is some contradictory of the two sides perception. So that is I think strategic mistake or the miscategorization of the South Korea's approach to ASEAN when it carried the bigger name of the Indo-Pacific to actually we can utilize the substance of the program, which can continuous under the even different names.
I would think that there's no opposition to more Korean presence, particularly in the security sphere in Southeast Asia. But the reason why ASEAN put up its own Indo-Pacific viewpoint is to provide coherence, because there's a lot of these Indo-Pacific strategies going on. Mm-hmm. But if you look into these documents, all of these countries that want to have an Indo-Pacific strategy are also trying to see where they can fit into the regional security architecture. And ASEAN also wants everyone to realize that you may have your own Indo-Pacific strategy, but it should not undermine ASEAN centrality.
Okay.
It should support it, but also it should not prevent any ASEAN country from developing improved ties bilaterally with South Korea. This is where the Philippines is heading with its friends-to-all approach to foreign policy. We do have an alliance with the US, but it doesn't mean that we are limited to having strong security ties with the US. We want US partners and allies to also be in the game, including South Korea. In a survey that we did, we found out that South Korea is the fourth preferred partner for the Philippines. First is US, second is Japan, third is Australia, and fourth is Korea. You may notice all three are US allies. So from our perspective, when we talk about our foreign policy approach, it's really ensuring that all countries which share our common values, belief in the rule of law, including international law, we want to be friends and partners with that country. So they should complement each other, both at the ASEAN level and at the bilateral level.
Okay, thank you. The last point just Mr. Amado made was that the ASEAN's basically flexibility. The ASEAN's resilience is based on that kind of flexibility, and ideally, wish that South Korea's foreign policy have to have that kind of flexible approach to everything. Okay, with that note, I conclude this session. Please give a big hands to our panelists again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee, and all the distinguished panelists for the insightful discussion. We'll now take a short 10-minute break. After the break, we'll convene with Session 3 and the awarding ceremony of the 2023 ASEAN-Korea Academic Essay Contest. So please stay tuned to the 2023 ASEAN-Korea Forum.
Ladies and gentlemen, session 3 will begin shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, session 3 will commence shortly. Please take a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Yeonju Lee from the ASEAN-Korea Center, and I'll be your MC for this session. We will now proceed with the award ceremony for the 2023 ASEAN-Korea Academic Essay Contest. Before we give out the awards, I would like to give you a short introduction on the essay contest, which is one of the annual programs organized by the ASEAN-Korea Center since 2016. Targeted to undergraduate and graduate students of ASEAN and Korean nationalities, the objectives are to raise awareness and deepen students' interest and understanding on ASEAN and Korea partnership. This year, we received 81 proposals from students across ASEAN and Korea who wrote essays under the theme of strengthening ASEAN-Korea strategic partnership in a changing global landscape with 2 optional sub-themes. Following a comprehensive review by our evaluators from Sogang University and Universitas Gadjah Mada in Indonesia, today we'll be awarding 8 winning essays, 1 grand prize, 1 excellence prize, 1 merit prize, and 5 special mention awards with award certificates and cash prizes. Kindly note that the awards ceremony will be conducted in a hybrid format as some of the winners are abroad. Let's begin first with the 5 special mention awards. Winners of the special mention category will each receive a cash prize of 150,000 Korean won per team. There will be also a photo session for those who are with us today. Here are the 5 winning teams. Ade Meiriza and Cindy Juliana from Universitas Gadjah Mada in Indonesia. Rizky Anugrah from Universitas Gadjah Mada. Isa Kim and Jonghyuk Choi from Sogang University. Isabel Piasison from Korea University. Tukanta from GSIS of the Seoul National University. For the awarding ceremony, allow me to invite Ms. Maisara Majid, Deputy Head of Information and Data Unit at the ASEAN-Korea Center, to present the awards. I would also like to call upon 2 special mention awardees who are present here today to come up to the stage for a short photo. Mr. Jonghyuk and Ms. Isabel, please come up to the stage. We will also take a group photo with at the back there is the cash prize poster behind your certificate, so can you, yes. And then we'll take a photo together. Thank you. 3, 2, 1. Congratulations again, Chong-hyuk and Isabel. Thank you. Please return to your seats. We will now move on to the top 3 prizes, beginning with the merit prize. The winner will receive a cash prize of 500,000 Korean won. Congratulations to the team of students from Universitas Gadjah Mada, Mr. Wendy Willianto and Mr. Widi Hanyanto Suritanyanta. Congratulations. And now, let us move on to the Excellence Prize. The winner will receive a prize of 1 million Korean won. For the awarding ceremony, let us first call upon to invite His Excellency Kim Hae-yong, Secretary General of the ASEAN-Korea Center, to come up to the stage to present the awards. Also, please welcome to the stage the Excellence Prize winner, Ms. Letty Chang from Korea University, to accept the award. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, Your Excellency. Congratulations. And now, for the big moment, we'll be awarding the grand prize winner of the 2023 ASEAN-Korea Academic Essay Contest. The grand prize winner will receive an award certificate and cash prize of 2 million Korean won. After a competitive evaluation process, the grand prize goes to a team of students from University of Indonesia, Ms. Adila Zalfa Febriana and Ms. Talita Payana Rama. Congratulations. Congratulations once again to all our winners. Appreciation goes to your contribution. We will now move on to the presentation and discussions, where we'll hear more on the winning essays by the top 3 winners. Let us invite Professor Bae Gi-hyun, Professor Chung Jung-un, and Ms. Letty Chang to the stage. Professor Bae Gi-hyun and Professor Chung Jung-un will lead this final session and share their evaluation and feedback to the presented winning essays. Professor Bae is currently the Associate Professor at the Institute for East Asian Studies at the Seogang University, while Professor Chung Jung-un is a Research Professor also at the Institute for East Asian Studies at the Seogang University. Without further ado, Professor Bae, the floor is yours.
Okay, it's on. Thank you, Ms. Lee, for introducing ourselves. Good afternoon, everyone. So it's now already the last part of today's forum. It's the last, but not the least, of course. I also believe that this panel is designed to particularly to congratulate young contributors and winners on their fascinating works on ASEAN-Korea relations must be the most exciting part of today because it is a good opportunity to listen to new perspectives and voices of the next generation, which will represent our future and our future of the Korea-ASEAN relations. So, without further ado, let's bring our winners and listen to them. Some of the winners prepared for the brief presentations of their contributions. So I will introduce them one by one and ask for their presentations. Okay, so first let me ask Ms. Adila Zalfa Febriana and Ms. Dalita Fainaya Rama, the grand prize winners of this year's essay contest, to take the floor. They will present online. Please.
Good afternoon, ASEAN-Korea Forum attendees. Today, I, Adila, and Talita from Indonesia will present you our winning essay, Utilizing the Online Community Through ASEAN Connect, Intercultural Competence Development in ASEAN and Korean Youth. Korea has grown more diverse since the 1990s, but it's not yet truly multicultural. Many Southeast Asian immigrants in Korea still face discrimination, and misperceptions between ASEAN and Korean youth still persist. This highlights the need to enhance their cultural competence among youth to help strengthen the youth partnership. Many programs have been held to correct existing misperceptions. However, current programs are limited due to the short duration, lack of preparation, and continuity, and strict procedures which limit youth's authentic intercultural exchanges. This raises a question: how can ASEAN and Korean youth enhance their intercultural competence in spite of geographical distance, time constraints, and financial limitations? To answer this, we propose an affordable and accessible online community program to complement existing ones. Intercultural competence is the ability to effectively exchange in diverse environments, which will be developed using Kolb's experiential learning model. This model is divided into 4 stages, which are concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, intercultural experiential learning is the ability. Intercultural experiential learning serves as the foundation for developing intercultural competence for youth. Youth will actively engage in an online community, immersing themselves in simulated scenarios where they step into the shoes of diverse cultures, and they will delve deep into their experiences as well, examining them from various angles. And guided questions will help them reflect and gain profound insights. Furthermore, they will be presented with abstract concepts to connect the dots. Lastly, youth will actively experiment with their knowledge, transforming it into reality. Online community significantly fits the program's aims, which afford sociability, which refers to community members' engagement, and usability, which refers to their voluntary and continuous participation. To complement this program, we also recommend seeking substantial support from governmental and non-governmental entities. In addition, by harnessing the power of the Intercultural Development Inventories, or IDI, we can further enhance the effectiveness of this program. And let's not forget the importance of integrating intercultural learning into school curricula, empowering the next generation with the tools to navigate our globalized world. Through ASEAN Connect, we elevate, connect, and grow together. For more information, please scan the QR code, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Adila and Ms. Dalita. We'll first listen to all the team's presentations before the evaluations feedback. So next, let me ask Ms. Le Thi Chuang, the Excellence Prize winners, to present her work. She's studying in Korea currently, so we are lucky to meet her in person. So Ms. Le, please.
Thank you. Greeting, Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am Le Thi Chuang from Vietnam. It's a great honor for me to be here today to present my research. So my research title is Reshaping Korean Youth Perception Toward ASEAN and the Role of Media. My research is inspired by ASEAN and Korean Centers 2021 and 2022 Survey and Mutual Perception of ASEAN and Korean Youth. According to the survey, while ASEAN youth hold kind of a positive impression of Korea, Korean youth perception toward ASEAN appear to be characterized by stereotypes and misconception. Also, the findings show that Korean youth access to information related to ASEAN mostly through media, include traditional media outlets. Therefore, to answer the question how to correct Korean young people perception toward ASEAN, my answer is that media play a significant role in shaping Korean youth perception toward ASEAN. So to test my hypothesis 1, which is if there is a selective reporting behavior when Korean media report about ASEAN or not, I conduct an analysis using KBS News, one of the most favorite media outlets in Korea.
searching for the Korean language keyword 동남아, which means Southeast Asia. In addition to test if exposure to news affect Koreans' impression of ASEAN and ASEAN people or not, I conduct a survey among 80 Korean young people. The findings show that there is a bias against ASEAN when media report about this region, as negative news account for nearly 49% of total news related to ASEAN. Noteworthily, while more negative news about ASEAN were reported, media did not mention about the region's effort to reduce those negative situations. I also found that while exposing to positive news about ASEAN increase the feeling toward ASEAN, it does not affect participant feeling toward ASEAN people. In addition, those who have Southeast Asian acquaintance tend to have better perception of ASEAN. Those who have heard about the word ASEAN also have more positive attitude towards the region. Interestingly, I found that visits to ASEAN and duration of stay in ASEAN do not necessarily affect participant and feeling toward ASEAN. My findings, though still have limitation, emphasize the importance of a proactive and concerted effort by media practitioners, academia, and policymakers to reflect the diverse and multifaceted realities of ASEAN countries. Furthermore, it is important to increase exchange programs in which ASEAN and Korean youth can directly interact with each other to improve mutual understanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lei. Okay, so the next presentation is from the Merit Prize awardees, Mr. Wendy Willianto and Mr. Widi Hanantio Surya Dinata. I hope that my pronunciation is okay. They will meet us from online. Please, misters.
Thank you for the opportunity. Selamat siang, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wendy Willianto and my colleague Widi Hanantio Surya Dinata. We are excited to share our winning essay, Green Energy Transition in ASEAN and South Korea, the Nexus of Circular Economy Principle and Digitization on Waste Management. Next slide, please. Ladies and gentlemen, our essay focuses on conducting an in-depth and extensive examination of the application of the C concept to address continuous waste generation in ASEAN and South Korea. In addition, this essay tries integrating artificial intelligence into waste management and shows potential. Next slide, please. Given the aforementioned background, we would like to address one fundamental question. How can the principle of CE and digitization of waste management serve as a tool to achieve green energy in ASEAN and South Korea? Next slide, please. RSIs use at least two theoretical frameworks, which are the first one is two-level game theory to portray how states accommodate domestic constituents' interests in international arena, and second, pentahelix model to emphasize its collaborations among 5 key stakeholders in society that play pivotal role in fostering innovation and socio-economic development. Next slide, please. Ladies and gentlemen, unlike take, make, and dispose model, CE promotes recycling waste into renewable energy, fostering sustainability. We highlight that both parties have the urgency to adopt CE principle for sustainable waste management. However, we do believe that traditional adoptions won't solve the waste problem effectively. Therefore, there are crucial needs to combine CE principle with digitization for better waste management.
Next slide, please.
Okay.
Here's the digitalization of waste management cycle. From bin with IoT through data point analytics, then we'll go to smart sorting process to determine whether go to dumping site, recycle, and composter to value the waste. Next slide. This is to explore various practical aspects of the application of digitalization in waste management. First, ASEAN authorities should implement the integration of digitalization into waste management. Second, cross-sectoral collaboration can drive digitalized waste management in region, especially by creating an automated waste bin separator. Third, while the organic waste is being transformed into renewable energy, the non-organic waste will undergo mechanical and chemical recycling. Next slide. We use pentahelix stakeholder. Academia provide transformative change, business or industry try to improve how business is conducted responsibility, and government creating and enforce policy, regulation, and legislation. Civil society conduct monitoring process, and media promote public awareness, education, and behavioral change. Next slide. But ASEAN face two challenges. First, disparity infrastructure and financial capabilities. And the integration of AI in waste management with IoT and pentahelix actor can compress the operational cost of waste management. We conclude that digitalization waste management, guided by CE principle, is seen as a transformative catalyst towards sustainability. Thank you for your listening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wendy and Mr. Witty, for your interesting work. Now we have 5 special mention awardee teams. They sent their short recordings of their works, and the center kindly edited and made a neat video for us. So we will meet Mr. Adi, Miss Cindy, Mr. Rizky, Mr. Isak, Mr. Jonghyuk, Miss Isabel, and Miss Tuk Anta by watching the video before we move on to the feedback session. Play the clip, please.
Hello, I'm Ademe Rizal from Indonesia. My colleague Cindy Juliana and I wrote Asia Emerging Space Actor, South Korea, ASEAN on Satellite for Environmental Protection, Cooperation and Sustainability. This article examines outer space activities in regime theory approach. The regime is highly needed to shape the state behavior. Each actor would make confident building measure and collective outcome to develop our space together. Issue area properties can direct actor to follow the norm and regulation to use space for cooperation and peaceful goal. Satellite for environmental protection is not tackling the challenge directly. However, this technology can make sure policymakers easier to understand and take precise actions regarding the environmental problem. There are various urgency why this is important. First, there is uncertainty of ASEAN space activity, whether peaceful competition or military. Second, space power rivalry in Asia is blowing up right now, such as China and India. Third is budget limitation. It is emphasized us to work together, cooperate in development and technology. And fourth, the emptiness of space institutionalisms in ASEAN can respond to it by cooperation in the near future. Thank you very much.
Greetings, annyeonghaseyo and salam. My name is Rizky Citra Anugrah and I am an undergraduate student at the Faculty of Law of Universitas Gadjah Mada in Indonesia. My paper titled Winning Hearts and Taste Buds, Improving ASEAN-Korea Youth Perception Through Culinary Exchange. I wrote the essay to explore how a culinary exchange would benefit the ASEAN-Korea relationship. Through my research, I was able to discover that ASEAN-Korea youth are already significantly interested in each other's cuisines and travel destinations. By indulging myself in existing literature on gastro-diplomacy, I was able to successfully make a recipe for an immersive culinary exchange program. I hereby recommend the establishment of a program for the brightest minds of both regions to exchange ideas, connections, and perspectives through the humble setting of a dinner table. I send my gratitude to the ASEAN-Korea Center for making this forum possible.
Hello, my name is Isak Kim and Jonghyuk and I are from the Republic of Korea. The title of our essay is Analysis of Korean Discourse and Perceptions on ASEAN using LDA topic modeling. This study combines the analysis of Korean news coverage using the LDA topic modeling method to analyze about 33,000 news articles. As a result, our analysis reveals that Korean news articles about ASEAN are heavily dominated by economic aspects. In addition, ASEAN is also mentioned in relation to East Asia politics. It is portrayed as an attractive travel destination, a place where high crime rates and the Korean wave is spreading. As a Polish suggestion, we believe that Korean news articles should not only emphasize the economic aspect of ASEAN, but also highlight the unique culture of ASEAN countries and the effort to reduce crime.
We would like to give our thanks to the ASEAN-Korea Center and to our mentor,
who wrote us the recommendation letter, which allowed us to participate in this contest. Thank you all.
Hello, I'm Isabel Pia Season, a Filipino student at Korea University. The title of my academic essay is From Script to Society, the Impact of Korean Media's ASEAN Representation on Shaping Cross-Cultural Perceptions, the Philippine Context. This study explores how Korean media portrayals of the Philippines affect the attitudes of Korean and Filipino young adults towards each other. The research findings show that there is an importance on giving focus on balanced media portrayals. Korean youth states that exposure to well-rounded depictions of the Philippines within the Korean media, this encompasses both positive and negative aspects, can generate a more favorable perception of the Philippines among Korean society. Conversely, Filipino youth express a longing for their culture to be portrayed more comprehensively and more accurately in Korean media. Conveying Filipino narratives within the dynamic world of Korean cinema and television often incorporates a lot of elements of fiction. Media literacy must be learned and cultivated in order to critically assess and receive these messages, regardless of the tone, whether it is positive or negative, in the ever-expanding mass media landscape of the world. Thank you very much for the Special Mention Award.
Hello everyone, my name is Thục Anh Ta and I'm from Vietnam. And the title of my essay is The Role of the Entertainment Industry in Bridging the Perception Gap Between Korean and ASEAN Youth. So I use the concept of soft power as the main conceptual framework, and my essay tried to combine quantitative data and qualitative case studies to analyze the existence of a trade imbalance in the entertainment contents between Korea and ASEAN countries and its negative impact on the social cultural exchanges among the youth in these countries. Thank you, AKC, for granting my essay the Special Mention Award.
Okay, great. Thank you all. And again, congratulations on the excellent outcomes. We do not have much time left, so now I quickly turn to Professor Chung Jung-hoon, who is next to me here, and ask him to give some feedback on the evaluation process. He's one of the evaluation committee members for this year's essay contest, and I believe he wants to share some of his views about the essays he read. Please, Professor Chung.
Thank you, Professor Baek. Just so you know, I'm Chung Jung-hoon from Sogang University. For the past few months, I have been reviewing this ASEAN-Korea academic essay contest. I reviewed the Journal of the essay during the essay contest. Personally, I remember attending the essay contest when I was a graduate student more than a decade ago. So I tried to more dedicate to evaluation process. It was a great honor to review and one of the best experience this year. I want to congratulate all the winning team again, and I had a good time listening to the three presentation. I had a few questions while reading the essay of the winning team. After listening to the presentation, I was able to iron out a few points. For instance, a discussion on how to align the thinking of different stakeholders to advance the relations between Korea and ASEAN. Adila Dalita, the grand prize winner, when the the excellence prize will be discussed later by Professor Park, and I completely agree with him. I would like to make a few comments on the merit prize winner, Wendy and Widi. In my view, establishing a lasting and substantial partnership between ASEAN and Korea is a much more challenging task than expected. The topic of Thema 2 include digital and green fields, which are more complicated. Despite this challenge, Wendy and with this essay focus on the issue of waste disposal in ASEAN-Korea. The essay suggests the use of artificial intelligence and the concept of circular economy to solve this problem. I think the pentahelix model presented in the essay is also very appropriate framework. What is most impressive is that it suggests active effort by various stakeholders to build a digitalized waste management system. In closing, I'd like to mention the following points. First, during the evaluation process, I realized that the student perception of Korean and Asian were very accurate. I thought that the position of Korea and ASEAN in international relations and the perception of reality faced by individual country were very accurate. Of course, I think it's important how to polish this apart from the reality recognition, and this was important to me during the evaluation. Secondly, I was a little bit concerned that many students prefer quantitative research as a way to recognize and solve the problem. I think we need to fully recognize the advantage of solving problem through the inductive process and based on realistic data that is grounded theory. I would like to see more essays that utilize qualitative research methodology such as participatory observation and in-depth interviews. Yeah, let's wrap it up. I'm thankful for your attention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I guess that our winners might have some feedback or responses to the Professor Chang's Zhang's comments, but I guess that we can, first I will deliver some messages from Professor Park, another committee, an evaluation committee member, and then maybe I'll also, if I have time, then I want to also respond to some of the works. So, and then combine with all these, and then you can, if time allows, you can respond to some of these feedback from us. Okay, is it good? Good. Okay. All right. So actually, Professor Park Jung-hoon, he's another Korean committee member in the evaluation process, and he has recently moved to Busan for his new position, and he could not make it today because of his busy schedule. So instead, he was so kind that he has sent me his feedback in writing. Therefore, let me read some of his messages for him. So Professor Park started his message by saying that it was an honor to evaluate many of the interesting papers submitted from many countries in the region. He said he was particularly impressed by how the awardees employ various methodologies to support their arguments. I think Professor Park is pretty on the same side, similar side with Professor Zhang, when he wanted to, in that he wanted to raise some issues of methodologies. For example, the paper written by Ms. Adila and Talita, who are the grand prize winners, proposes well-organized and innovative suggestions based on an online youth interaction program. Though several requirements are needed beforehand, he believes your suggestions are good enough to be transformed into a tangible policy programs for fostering exchanges between youths of South Korea and ASEAN countries. He also said reading Ms. Letty Chang's article was enjoyable. Based on the findings from rigorous statistical analysis of the quasi-experimental model, it clearly shows how and to what extent the nature and tones of the initial information exposure affects the recipient's perceptions. He also stated that he was impressed by the level of methodological sophistication of other papers, like Mr. Rick Z's descriptive analysis of the importance of gastrodiplomacy, Mr. Isak and Mr. Jong-hyuk's employment of LDA topic modeling to examine the trend of the South Korean news coverage on ASEAN, and Ms. Isabel's analysis based on the findings from the focus group interviews. He noted that this methodological diversity will contribute to a broader and better understanding not only between scholars, but also between citizens in South Korea and ASEAN countries. I don't know whether he's online. I guess he won't, but just on behalf of everybody, thank you, Professor Park, sorry, Professor Park, for sending these lovely comments. So, okay, so if we have, do we have some minutes for me to comment, or is it okay? Okay, so I would also like to respond to the presentations of the winners. So as for first, Ms. Le's work on the role of media, since we have her here, I would like to ask you a question. So based on your research, based on your work, could you tell us to what extent, or if any, or if or to what extent you think media can change the mutual perception of the ASEAN-Korea? If there are any thoughts that you want to share, please.
Thank you for the question. For me, I think I believe that all of us spend a lot of time surfing media and watching Netflix, for example. But as far as I know, like Korean K-drama recently reflect Southeast Asian countries in kind of negative ways. For example, whenever a Southeast Asian actor appear in the K-drama, their role is mostly a housekeeper or like foreign worker, or whenever they mention about Southeast Asian countries, it will be like a drug trafficking hub or criminal city. For example, in I don't remember what is the name of the K-drama, but they portray Philippines and Vietnam as a criminal city. And I'm sorry, but I believe that if those kind of image repeat day by day, they will really affect Korean, or just from another reason about the image of Southeast Asian countries.
I fully agree with you, Ms. Le. Thank you very much for your feedback. Okay, so just one question from me to Ms. Adila and Ms. Talita. So increasing this cross-cultural competence is indeed an urgent task within the Korean society. I fully agree with you. And your suggestion for making online community platform must draw many young people's attention, especially Gen Z's attention, I believe. But I also wondered how we should address this issue of inequality in information accessibility and or English language proficiency, the variability of which is still huge within ASEAN and across social classes within the region. And I believe the brilliant scholars like you want to observe these issues, but still can suggest some productive ideas to address some of these underlying challenges that could affect your policy suggestion in your current project. So that's my comment or question. If we have time, you can answer. If we don't have time, maybe you can email me. All right, so do we have minutes for them to respond? Maybe 1 minute per each team? 1 minute per each, for each team, please. Yes. Maybe Ms. Adila and Ms. Talita, you want to go first to respond, if any?
Okay, so we'll try to answer. So I do think that it is also a major obstacle to implement the online community with several language boundaries. So I think it is important to, use our resources, which are ASEAN countries and Korean youth who can speak several languages, so we can, invite them as volunteers to run the community. So every language for ASEAN and Korean countries can be facilitated. So every member of the online community have, someone that can understand their own language. So we hope that by joining the community, they can also learn other languages, which are also part of, cultures. So, yeah.
And I believe that the importance of governmental and non-governmental entities are very important in this case. I actually have participated in one scholarship program that is run by a state-owned government program in Indonesia, and in this program, we facilitate a language proficiencies of courses for others that is maybe marginalized and doesn't have the access to learn English or any other languages.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your views. Thank you so much. Mr. Wendy and Mr. Widi, do you want to just comment back?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for the insightful comment for our SIs. If we can reflect to the writing process, Widya and I really enjoy to write this topic because we recognize that sustainability must be integrated in all aspects of life, given the concern issue regarding the climate crisis. And we do believe that shedding light about the CE concept, it is such an interesting topic for us because we do believe in the society, this topic, it's really unfamiliar. And yeah, we are to agree about the limitation on our SIs, especially about the practical issue, but I think that's gonna be a further agenda of research. We can do a collaboration research with the science student to make a more comprehensive policy recommendations and paper. Yeah, that's our comment. Maybe we do add something.
I would like to add some more. Yeah, we see that every government in ASEAN or in other side of the world is makes more hypocritic than really looking for a tangible impact for the waste management system. So I think as a student, we have to make some recommendation, like when we say for the government to implement a regulatory reformation, maybe to create a tangible impact, at least for ASEAN and ROK society. That's what I want to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I believe that this essay contest could be a very important platform for these young, young generations of the region to deliver their messages to the policymakers, so that they can also see many social issues from diverse and new perspectives. And so that's why I think that I really thank ASEAN-Korea Center again for sustainably operating this, running this essay contest every year. Thank you so much on behalf of everybody. Okay, so this is the end of the session. Thank you all for staying until late. Thank you all, and also thank you the winners for your excellent outcomes. Thank you, everybody. The mic is yours.
Thank you all for the insightful discussion, and we do hope that we will receive more proposals in the coming years. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of today's forum. In closing, on behalf of ASEAN-Korea Center and the Institute of East Asian Studies at the Sogang University, I would like to convey our appreciation to all the speakers and participants for your time and attention. Before you leave, please fill out a survey. The link is now being shared on YouTube live chat, and you can also scan the QR code on the screen. Please note that we'll be also handing out giveaways to the respondents. Also, please subscribe to ASEAN-Korea Center's SNS and YouTube channel. Finally, I hope to see you all in AKC's future programs. Thank you and have a great evening. A couple of housekeeping notes. Please return the name tags on your way out, and also please place the receivers on your table. Thank you.